Mountain View is the most diverse zip code in the country. And that says a lot about who we are and who we can be. I think in some ways, this is the most American community in America. And we ought to be very proud of that and embrace it, because this is where our values are tested and exposed and will triumph. But what can we do to make sure that our youth have something to do? We need more in-school and after-school activities. I see too much focus in schools now on what the testing is, instead of about teaching and reaching each child as an individual. Each child is someone who's unique. So okay. One of the things that I'd like to see us possibly do is move the high school start time back a little bit. So when kids go to school, they're awake and they're in school in the afternoon instead of on the street.
Now I want to go to Mr. Daniel.
Thanks for coming tonight. First, I'd like to praise our Lord Jesus for bringing us all together tonight. And yes, I'd meet with you, and I'd meet with all people in this city. You know, the youth is really important to us, and we got to be good role models and lead them in the right way. We're lacking in after-school sports and activities, as Ethan said, and we need to focus on that. You know, lots of times we focus on economic development and things like that, and money, and all the things in life that we think we need, material things. But we need to start focusing on people and looking to the future. And these young folks in all the different communities need people to be there for them. There's a lot of good role models in your community, and you've done well since you've been here with us. And we appreciate you being here. And I hope if I become mayor that we can all work together, try to have a board of all the diverse community, and reach out to the youth, because they're having trouble being guided. Thank you very much.
My name is Amy Demboski, as I said earlier. I love this question because I'm not going to wait 2 months. I can tell you, I will ask you to come and talk with me in the first week. And I think it's that important. Whether we're talking about after-school sports, which I think are very valuable. I mean, kids learn teams, they learn sportsmanship, and they're active and they're productive with their time. So I think that's valuable. I think it's important to support programs like the Boys and Girls Club, because I think that's valuable in our community. But I think it's important to engage churches and nonprofits and minority groups, anyone who wants to come to the table, because we are all in this community together. So I think it's valuable, I think it's important, but I value relationships before all else. Why? Because we're in this community together, and when we actually work together, that's when we'll get things done.
Hi, thank you for having us tonight. When I walked in, I looked around. This is the church I grew up in. As a matter of fact, I was an altar boy here, and the church still looks exactly the same. So it's good to be home. Not only would I meet with the leader of the Samoan community, but the last year and a half I've been meeting with the leaders of all the communities. As president of the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce, diversity has become one of my primary initiatives. Look, they're speaking almost 100 languages in the Anchorage School District today. I mean, we're becoming a more international and complex society. And what we've done at the Anchorage Chamber is we've launched one of the most innovative diversity programs in the country. And we've gathered the leaders of the Hmong community, the Filipino community, all of the communities around the table. And we've identified 3 areas where all of these communities are in alignment. Education, because you have a huge issue with English as a second language out there. Housing, because housing is incredibly expensive. Anchorage is the 21st most expensive in Anchorage. And the third thing is economic opportunities for their families. And so we created avenues so people get access, whether it's how to do small business plans or how to get into groups that are developing business and education. That's what we need to do. We just need to do more of the same that I've been doing the last year and a half, because we are one Anchorage and we have one economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your responses. And now we move on to our second question. I would like to ask Jay.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. So last month, we held a meeting with over 200 people at the Covenant Church to discuss the need for substance abuse, detox, and related services. We learned that Anchorage has only 14 detox beds, the same number as Juneau and Fairbanks, although Anchorage has 10 times the population. The municipality used to fund some detox services, but this stopped 15 years ago, and the number of beds has dropped. Both Dick Traney and Bill Evans agreed to work with the new mayor to direct municipal funds to add more detox beds in Anchorage next fiscal year. Our question for you has two parts. First, we're asking for a yes or a no response. If elected, will you work with these assemblymen to see that funding for substance abuse detox beds is included in next year's budget? And then please explain, what will you do to make this happen?
Thank you. I would like to ask Tim to kick off against the response to this question.
This is a critical issue along with the youth issue, and we need to step up the whole community and build a detox center with associated treatment. We've got to move forward on this. Our community's in a lot of trouble, I believe. I worked down at the shelter before, and I've seen it grow when you go by the streets in the mornings when I go by there to go drive taxi. I see, 200 or 300 people outside there now, and they've been sleeping on the streets and whatnot. So as mayor, of course, yes, I will, and I think it should be a priority of the mayor. We need to solve these problems before we move forward with other things. Economic development, like I said before, and making money is great, but we've got to move forward on these issues. We've got to turn this community around. And so that's what I would do as mayor. That would be my focus, and public safety. Community policing has been my platform all the way through this campaign of proactive policing. And I hope whoever is elected mayor, if it isn't me, carries on with these ideas and moves forward. And it takes the whole community together with the leaders to do it. Thank you.
I apologize for not being here last month. I was the assembly representative to speak at the Rally Our Troops issue. So I was there, but I am one of the assembly members that pushed for the creation of the Assembly Task Force. The Assembly has a committee to deal with homelessness, chronic inebriation, and drug abuse. And one of the things that we've been working very hard at is to make sure that we can identify all the different services that it needs to take to treat someone, and then we can find a holistic way to fund it. So yes, I'm absolutely committed to making that happen. I think it's more than detox. We have some mental health care components that have to be addressed. There has to be some housing issues addressed. But it comes back to, we have to bring everyone to the table. So I have been working the last few months to talk with different minority leaders, different tribal leaders, nonprofits, so many stakeholders that this affects. And I think it's important to continue that dialogue, but I'm absolutely committed to it. And I was absolutely instrumental in making sure this committee on the Assembly was formed. It's the first time in history the Assembly has done something like this. And it goes to show, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, every single Assembly member is committed to making sure this issue is addressed.
Thank you. What we're talking about here is the health of the community. And the community, let's be honest, it's not very healthy right now. For the last 2 months on the campaign trail, the issue of chronic inebriates in care, the cost to society, the cost to first responders has been the most asked question, with the exception of public safety. Really, what we need to do is we need to step back and take a long view. I mean, we talk about the lack of detox. We talk about the disconnect from rehab. We talk about that there's no housing, transitional housing. And I think this is our challenge, is because in government, we love to create new programs. We love to create new programs that we think are going to be a silver bullet instead of stepping back and taking a look at the entire system. I mean, you have to, just like education K through 12, you have to have a continuum of care. You have to have detox, you have to have rehab, you have to have job training, you have to have transitional housing. And here's a perfect example. I was having coffee with a police officer downtown, and as I was walking up to the table, this gentleman was walking by. And he said to the police officer, he said, you know, I'm trying to get clean, but all I am is surrounded by people who want to pull me back in. And that's what we have to get away from.
Chair, can I ask a follow-up clarification question? No, for Mr. Halcro. Just to clarify then, is that a yes or a no?
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
You know, I was at that meeting, and what struck me were the testimonials of people who came forward to talk about the way that drugs and alcohol had impacted their lives. And the particular tragedy of hearing those stories is those are stories I've been hearing my entire professional career here. When I came to Anchorage, I very quickly worked in the district attorney's office. And I heard these stories, and we saw the need for drug and alcohol treatment 20 years ago. I saw and heard the need for drug and alcohol treatment when I was in the legislature. I opened the internet, and I can pull up task force after task force after task force that tells us exactly what to do. And we know what needs to happen. We're not going to cure the problem 100%. But that's, if we let the perfect be the enemy of the good, we'll never achieve anything. What we need to do is we need that continuum of care. We need the detox facilities. We need the rehabilitation. We need the job training. We need the housing. But we need to be true to who we are as compassionate people. And that means we need to look after those amongst us who are least advantaged and most in need. So I guess the answer is yes.
Thank you, Ethan. Now we'd like to proceed to our third question tonight from Ron.
Thank you. As you can see from our last two questions, we have a strong desire to be involved and engaged in our community. Many of our members at AFACT have experienced frustration when attempting to locate resources and information on the municipal website. It is difficult to find assembly agenda items in a timely manner, to locate meeting notices, and to track specific issues. For nearly a year, we have had numerous meetings with state and local lawmakers and other public officials in order to resolve this issue. The decisions made by the mayor and assembly affect us greatly. And in order for us to be involved and support our community, it is important that we have access to this information. As mayor, will you commit to the development of a more user-friendly website for the municipality of Anchorage, yes or no? And how will you accomplish this?
Oh, I'll lead this one off because I feel your pain. I'm a current sitting assembly member, and sometimes I get frustrated. The first thing I would say, the municipal website, when it comes to public notices, if you click on the main page at muni.org and just click on public notices, it's supposed to pop up right there. The clerk's office is also on Twitter and Facebook. So that's been a great resource. They've really been bolstering that. When it comes to the assembly, the clerk's office runs the assembly's calendar. But absolutely, as mayor, I think we have to become as transparent as possible. We have to become as user-friendly as possible. But right now, to be honest with you, the city is struggling with a $40 million failed software implementation project. That has to get fixed first. Because, quite frankly, we're utilizing all of our IT resources right there. But with that said, I absolutely will do everything in my power to bolster the communication between the public because, quite frankly, that is the foundation of what we're supposed to do. We're a representative government, and my door will always be open. You know, to me, that's the best way to govern is openly and transparently.
Has anybody ever been to the Muni's website? Anybody? I mean, I would rather go to the dentist. And I hope there's no dentist in here because I think I just lost the tooth decay vote. No, seriously, look, that's one of my pet peeves about websites is if I have to make more than 2 clicks, they're not making that information accessible enough. I mean, seriously, when you go to the Muni's homepage, I mean, right there, you know, one of the largest tabs on the thing is the mayor's education summit that hasn't met in 2 years, but God help you if you're trying to find the assembly agenda for this week. Seriously, I mean, if you want to see a website, because I am passionate about, when I go for information, we live in a technology age, right? I mean, we can Google something within 3 seconds. When I'm looking for information, especially on a government website, when it's more complicated than any retail or any other website, I mean, I want easy to understand navigation tools. And that's the one thing when I was hired at the chamber, that was the first thing I did, was I said, that website's terrible. I have to get to 3 clicks to see what the luncheon is this week. You know, it should be right there. The most important information, the most common access information should be the easiest. And all you have to do is fix the homepage. You don't have to fix the whole system, which is very inexpensive, but it needs to be fixed.
I think we should also not just make it easy to use, but make it easy to use for all the people in this community, which means we need to respect the different languages that are in use here. And we ought to make sure that there is language access so that different members of this community can access their government simply. Because it's one thing to talk about a transparent government, which means government that's accessible to people where there's nothing hidden. It's a far different thing to practice it. So I'm very much in favor of not just making the website more accessible, but making the entire, all parts of government more accessible, more friendly, more part of the community, more reflective of the community. Because if we make government look a lot more like the community it serves, it will do a much better job serving the community. The Constitution says we're a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Well, there's all kinds of different people out there. That's one of our strengths. So we ought to have a government that looks the same way that the rest of us do. Each one of us is different.
Of course, I think we should make it easier for people to access the website. But what I'd like to say about the assembly is the issues we're talking about tonight should become the priority for the next few meetings once the new mayor comes in. And that we make an action plan and we move forward immediately on the problems that we're having. No more stalling or committees. We need to take action now. And that's what I would suggest. I'd also like to see a lot of you guys in our government. I want to see more of the minority community and our diverse community. If I was elected mayor, I'd appoint more people like that to our government. Also within our police force, we need to do that. And that's what I think we should do. Of course, we want to access government easily and as transparently as possible. But we need to encourage the assembly to move forward on the crime problem, on the homeless problem, on the inebriate problem, all these problems. And youth, I would like to see more youth jobs available and training for the youth. I learned when I was a young man that hard work pays off and that youth are busy working and keeping out of trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And I would like to take a 1 minute, 2 seconds, because I want Tina to say something.
Hello again, this is Tina. I am one of the main organizers for this event. I just wanted to clarify something that's going on here. As you can see, there's kind of a mix-up with the names. All the candidates that had the names up here were confirmed by mail with the return receipt, email, and phone calls. We are disappointed that they weren't able to make it tonight, but thankful for Timothy for filling in. Thank you, Tim. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here.
Now we will open for the floor. For those of you that have signed up to ask a question, I will call upon your name. Please make way to the center aisle and from a single line. This person will have 30 seconds to ask the question. Candidates will have 30 seconds to respond. Kathleen B. Oboriti. Henry Fanning. Serrani Tafue. Carol Olini. So, Carol Olini. Jeffrey Billy, first one. Luis.
In 2013 and 2014, after a series of conversations with members of our congregations and communities, AFACT leaders recognized the need for public education on Medicaid expansion. To address this need, AFACT produced 4,000 copies of an educational booklet that was distributed statewide. In addition, AFACT made 12 presentations to 800 people in 9 congregations throughout the Anchorage area. In answering the call to speak out in the name of faith, AFACT has come out strongly in support of Medicaid expansion. And earlier this month, AFACT sent 14 pastors to Juneau and leaders to Juneau to hand deliver our letters of support to legislators and the government.
Medicaid expansion is important to the Samoan community because many of our people do not get insurance at their jobs and lack good health care. In February, the Assembly passed a resolution to support Medicaid expansion. Being a mayor is a very influential position. Legislatures listen to mayors and value their input. If elected to office, would you support Medicaid expansion and support our Assembly by pushing the state legislature to accept federal funds to expand Medicaid?
Sorry about that. I did not know that they have combined question. So please answer. So what was the question?
And the question was, if elected to office, would you support Medicaid expansion and support our Assembly by pushing the state legislature to accept federal funds to expand Medicaid?
Yes, and I will give you a good reason why. About a year and a half ago, the Anchorage Chamber of Commerce passed a unanimous Board of Directors resolution supporting the expansion of Medicaid, as did the Alaska State Chamber of Commerce. Because for the business community, this makes sense. It's an investment in health care. It expands training opportunities and job career opportunities. Seniors are our fastest growing demographic. We have an in-migration of low income, and Medicaid is proven to save money. Every state that studied it shows that it saves money.
I have not supported Medicaid expansion for a variety of reasons. One is I come from the dental background, and I worked for a corporation recently that accepts Medicaid. And their reimbursement rates were going to be dramatically decreased. And many dentists have told me that they may in fact stop taking Medicaid altogether. And that's a problem for people on the lower income level that currently use Medicaid. Because if they don't have providers that are going to provide, that's going to be a problem. So until those reimbursement rates can get fixed and we can ensure a stable medical and dental force, I think that has to get fixed first. But I think if we can fix that, then we have an opportunity. But until that's fixed, at this point, I don't support it.
I would support it when funding's available, if we can keep the funding going. But on the other hand, I think doctors and nurses and dentists and all the people in our community need to step up and give care to people who can't afford it. We've got to quit thinking just about money and ourselves and care about our community. We could be the first ones to move in that direction, where we reach out to everybody and have free clinics. There's a lot of people besides your community that don't have insurance. I happen to be one of them. And I think that we need to all be able to get care like we used to in America. So that's what I would work towards, and also try to support Medicare where we can afford to. Thank you.
I support Medicaid expansion. And I wish I were mayor when the legislature was still in session so I could use that bully pulpit to beat them over the head and make them do the right thing. But they've shown an unusual capacity for making the wrong choice at the wrong time, and I don't expect it to be different now. But if the legislature does not approve Medicaid expansion, what I commit to you right here, right now, is that as mayor of Anchorage, I will seek a waiver from the federal government so I can apply as a municipality for Medicaid expansion and see if we can, at least that way, take care of this community.
Thank you, Ethan. I'd like to make an apology. Just, correct time is 1 minute. So, question 1 minute. Response. Next question.
Hi, I'm Henry Fowler from St. Benedict, and my question is about police. Since 2004, AFACT has worked with 2 of the last 3 police chiefs, urging them to create a true community policing model at all levels of APD. In light of many crimes and shootings around the city, many of us are afraid to even leave our homes. Anchorage is our home, and we want it to be safe for our families and children. Would you support a move towards community policing model in Anchorage and the APD? What is your plan to address this issue?
We need to have community policing. It's not just Anchorage that needs it, the entire country needs it. The President had a task force on policing right after Ferguson, and the report that came out specified that community policing is absolutely essential for making sure that we have more effective law enforcement. Because you can't have law enforcement land in the community as an occupying force. Law enforcement has to come to a community that is part of the community. And the community has to become part of law enforcement. But every contact between the police and someone on the street isn't necessarily a criminal contact. In fact, most of those contacts are contacts that involve someone who's got a drug or alcohol problem, some kind of stress in their life, some kind of trauma that they're dealing with. And that's why community policing makes the most sense, because you need to have a police force and a criminal justice system that's about preventing crime. And that's what community policing does, is it prevents crime. It makes people safer. Because we should all be safe when we walk in the streets. We should be safe in our homes. And I say this, I spent years as a prosecutor, I spent years in the legislature studying this. This is something that I'm quite passionate about. Community policing is the essential way of the future, and we need to have it here now.
So just to make myself clear, is that a yes or no? I'm sorry.
Well, that's an emphatic yes.
Oh, that's okay.
As most people know, have been following my campaign, that is one of the central themes of it. We need community policing and proactive policing. We had it in Mountain View in 1997. It worked. It was successful. We had a better community over here. It went away because, in a lot of ways, some people in power don't want it because everybody is, the hierarchy of policing flattens out, and every policeman has a little neighborhood he patrols and talks to the people. The chief is at the same level as the patrol officer then. And we need to move towards this. We may have to replace leadership at UAA to get it going. They know about it. We've had funding before. We did some. So I'm not confident it's going to come, even with whoever is mayor, unless I'm elected. But anyway, I'm not confident it's going to happen. But you guys need to keep pushing on it. And the new mayor, whoever it is, needs to make sure that we have leadership at APD that wants to do community policing with the help of the mayor. I would suit up in a police uniform myself because I would be the top cop in this town as the mayor. And I'd go out and patrol myself and get to know the community. And the police should already be doing that. We're short. The chief should be out in the community, so should the deputy chief.
Yes. You're welcome. I've said it consistently, one of the first things we have to do right is public safety. We want to have great schools, we want economic development, we want all these things, but if we don't feel safe in our own community, businesses are not going to grow and flourish, we're not going to have the great opportunities of economic development. You're going to hear all of us say that we absolutely want community policing, but it comes down to staffing. You can't effectively community police if you don't have enough police officers. Right now, they're so reactionary. They run from call to call to call. So one of the very first things we have to deal with is APD staffing. We have to make it so we have enough officers so they can get out in the community and they're not so reactive, and instead they have an opportunity to actually community police. I think it's crucial, and it's my #1 priority.
Yes. And the beauty about community policing is it's proactive and it starts at an early age. So chances are a young person here at Anchorage, their first experience in a proactive environment is a positive one. Today, with such a short staff and a declining staff of police over the last 4 years, most of the contacts between police and the young residents of Anchorage have been adverse. And it's not just about community policing. The studies have clearly shown that a police officer must have at least 35% of their shift unobligated to be proactive in the community. And I took a ride-along with a sergeant, an APD sergeant, last Friday night from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, if you saw what went on in this town after midnight, you would be alarmed. And I've grown up here 50 years, my entire life. And you know, the problem is we have to start young, and we're not starting young anymore. And we don't have enough Mao Tosis of the world. That's what we don't have. And I'm glad that Mao's endorsed my candidacy, because this is what this is about. This is about bringing the community together and putting Mao in a position where he can make change. It's not just public safety, it's re-engaging neighborhood nonprofits and the PTAs to rebuild the community. These nonprofits exist, they're doing fabulous work every day. They just need to be talked to and supported.
Thank you, Brandon. Next question.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eliana Kupoli from St. Anthony's Church. And I know that Anchorage Mayor's Office used to have a community outreach liaison who was responsible to reach out to the ethnic and cultural communities around Anchorage. And currently, I've not seen anybody in this position right now. And the question is, if elected to office, would you reinstate this position? Why or why not?
The community outreach position, is that what you're referring to? Yes. This is the first administration in a very long time not to have a community outreach person. Does anybody know Daryl Hess? Yeah. You know, he's our guy. I mean, he is really the one person that I believe in this town has more experience with more communities and loves that connection more than anybody. And he lost his job because they felt it wasn't important. And they filled it with a person that does website stuff, and we already talked about the website. So yes, absolutely, yes, yes, yes.
This is an easy one for me because I get to work with Daryl all the time and he is fantastic, but absolutely this is critical. You know, one of the things when we talk about relationships and we talk about getting engaged in the community, when we look at the current administration, some of them, I'm sorry, they operate in a silo. They stay in their offices. They need to get down among the people because we have to serve you. And how do we serve you if we don't talk to you? I think this is a vital position, and it's one that I'm committed to.
Of course we do. Daryl was in there. Nothing really got accomplished, though, to be honest with you. And he was supposed to get moving on it. So we need somebody that will accomplish something and move forward with this. Probably someone of the diverse community that isn't a crony of somebody's. And Mao isn't a bad guy to pick either. Maybe he could step up and do that job. But there's lots of good people. I would be very careful in who I picked. I would also be out in the community myself, not making a lot of trips out of town and whatnot until we solve these problems. Because if we don't solve the major problems, it's going to affect all the other things, tourism, economic growth, business. So we have to have that outreach to everybody, bring us all together as one community. Thank you.
You know, I'd like to think in a perfect world, you wouldn't need a community outreach because the community would be part of the administration, right? And that's how I'd like the administration to look. But of course, we're not in a perfect world yet. And so there will be someone, maybe multiple people, because we've got a lot of different communities here. And that's what I'd like to see. You know, I'm thinking of my two kids. Both have gone through a Spanish immersion program. And one of the beauties of going through an immersion program, when you have kids in the schools here, you see what Anchorage really looks like. It doesn't look like City Hall the way it is today. It's a lot different. And so I want to make sure that my administration reflected that difference. My wife helped establish a nonprofit called the Alaska Immigration Justice Project. And that's been part of our household since she founded it 10 years ago. And so I'm well aware of the diversity of this community and the challenges that different people face, depending on where they came from or how long they've been there. But I'm also the grandson of immigrants. And I know that story, and it's something that's close to me, and it's something that's in who I am. And so I'll be very, very aware of it.
Thank you. We have three announcements before the next question. One is we are going to move down to 30 seconds question, 30 seconds response. And the second, if I can have everybody agree with me to go over 5 minutes so that we can accommodate these people in line. And everybody say yes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all. 30 seconds.
My name is Sarani Tafune, and I go to church here at St. Anthony. I'm a 5th grader at Willow Elementary, and I have been bullied before. My question is, when you become mayor, what will you do to help Anchorage School District make rules and policies on bullying stronger and better for us?
Well, I get that one first, and the first thing I have to tell you I have to do is I have to learn exactly what the problem is and how strong their rules are. And I think that goes to start to talk to the kids. You got to go into the schools. You got to talk to the kids, and you have to tell you. I want you to tell me where it's short, where we're falling short, because you know what? The best way to learn is to engage. That's the best way to learn. So am I committed to that? Yes. My kids are both products of the Anchorage School District. I have a senior or a freshman in college and a freshman in high school, and it's very important that our kids feel safe in their schools.
I would encourage every school down to the grade school where people have understanding anyway to form their own little student government, which we already have, and put forth proposals to the mayor of what the problems are that they see. And then we can come together as a group and decide which way we should go. One thing we definitely need to do is start moving towards teaching and away from testing all the time. And that, you know, if elected mayor, I plan on increasing funding for math, science, and English, and also improvement to projects that need to be done.
So my son's in the 6th grade, so it's pretty close. And I hear stories about bullying, and I'll tell you the ones that are most heartening for me, the things that make me feel best, is when the kids are aware of it themselves and take care of it themselves. Because there's a lot less of it under those circumstances. When you, as students, generate enough peer pressure to stop people from doing things they shouldn't do. But oftentimes, as an adult, you'll see somebody who's doing the bullying, and you recognize that there's something else going on with that child. And I think it's up to us who are adults in positions of responsibility to intercede and see what we can do to make sure that not only the children are protected from bullying, but the person who's doing the bullying is safe as well.
Next question.
I'm glad I get a chance to answer this. A year and a half ago, the Anchorage Chamber partnered with the NEA, the teachers union, and we did a statewide teacher survey. And what we did was we studied Anchorage urban and rural school districts. And we did the most comprehensive, extensive survey that's ever been done in the state. 1,200 teachers statewide took the test. And we broke the data into elementary, middle, and high school. And basically what we did was we went out and asked teachers, what are the biggest inhibitors to student learning? What stops kids from learning the most? And it was pretty consistent. I mean, kids that show up not ready for school and such and such. But in 7th and 8th grade, both in rural and urban, bullying showed up. And that is the worst time, 7th and 8th grade, for bullying to show up. And yet, when we talk about budget cuts, it's always 7th and 8th grade counselors.
Thank you, candidate. Next question.
Hello, my name is Carol Libby. I'm from St. Mary's Episcopal Church. And my question, too, is related to bullying. I attended the Catholic Native Ministry Forum for candidates, school board candidates, Saturday night here at this congregation. And that was a big issue at that time. But I also see it as I read Lynn Curry. It almost every week, the questions in the workplace are on bullying. And bullying also takes place with our elected officials, unfortunately, both local, state, and region, and national. And I wonder what you would do to address the bullying issue. State, city, country.
I'm a small guy, I'm only 5'6".
Okay.
5'6". And I've spent my career fighting for social justice. I've spent my career as a lawyer fighting for social justice. I spent my time in the legislature when I ran for office and as mayor fighting for social justice. And social justice is just another way of making sure that one group doesn't pick on another, that nobody gets bullied in the process, that everyone gets treated fairly and equally. That's a core value for me. So you can count on me to continue that as mayor.
Well, we certainly don't want people bullied by other people. We all know that. I don't think there's any easy solution. Part of it is, a role model problem, like you say. It's from the top to the bottom. Even within this election, there's bullying going on, not necessarily from the candidates, but the media doesn't want to include people in debates just because they didn't get enough of this money, votes, or other things. So people don't get to hear everybody's voices. And I'm not really concerned about being elected, but I think it's important that we hear everyone's voices, because then we don't feel like bullying is everywhere. So I think you're right, man, but it's in all facets of our life. It's going to be hard to root out.
Okay, you're going to say I'm the world's worst politician because I'm way too honest. But what I will tell you, when it comes to our children, it breaks my heart when I hear that kids are bullied. So anything that I can do to help, I will absolutely do it. When it comes to politics, I have been on the brunt of it, and I can tell you the best way to deal with a bully is to stand up to him. And that's why I'm in this race today. It's because I had some tell me they would end my political career if I ran. Guess what? I'm here today because you deserve a choice. We may not agree on every issue. We may not. But you deserve someone who's honest, who's ethical, and who is there for the people of Anchorage, no matter what.
I'm glad you're here. Yes, I mean, as I said, between 7th and 8th grade, that's a critical time in a student's life anyways, in a life issue. And we cut resources in 8th grade. And you know what? Bullying is learned behavior. That's what it is. When kids grow up to be bullies, I've seen it, they come into the workplace, they're bullies. I mean, for some reason, they get joy out of that. And it's learned behavior. And we have to know to recognize that and to address that. And again, I think it comes down to, for the last 2 years, I've been chair of the United Way's 90% by 2020 campaign to boost graduation rates and attendance to 90% by 2020. And this has been our issue, is that we have to look at the data and focus our resources. And when it comes to bullying, we know 6th, 7th, and 8th is where you need to reinforce, get after the bullies, and treat and make sure you have no victims.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Good evening, my name is Papaya and I'm from St. Benedict. Last year I lost my job by the end of the year. I went to the public assistant and the housing for some help. The waiting list for the public assistant is up to April now, where I'm on the waiting list for April. And the waiting list for the housing is up to a year. My question is, if elected to office, will you agree to make affordable housing a priority for your administration? Yes or no? If yes, how would you do this?
Housing is a big problem in our community. We're all struggling to make it except for the very wealthy. And I would try my best, but you know, at times there's been 4,000 and 5,000 people on the waiting list. We even had to stop the voucher program before. This is another real critical issue we need to address, you know, how we're going to provide housing for people. It's already affecting our ability to get workers in Anchorage. And so as mayor, that would be another one of my primary focuses, along with public safety and other things. But we must move forward and try to make that available. I encourage you to try to keep looking for employment and trying to get yourself back on your feet. But yeah, it's a really long waiting list. At the shelter, people had to wait and wait and wait. And I don't know the answer because the needs are so great in Anchorage.
We need to build more affordable housing. We need more housing density in this town. The idea that everyone gets to have a large lot, I think it doesn't make for good neighborhoods. I look at what's happening in this community here, and some of the revitalization that I see across the highway is occurring because we're putting residences on top of retail and making it so people can go to work and shop and live in close proximity to where they are. We need to do more like that. And as we do that, you're going to see more community pride in these neighborhoods. These neighborhoods will be stronger, and when that happens, you'll see more housing develop. But we need to have a concerted effort. Again, there's task force after task force. I'd just like to follow the recipe in any one of them that's out there.
Well, I think we have to stand back and take a big picture. Currently, as an assembly member, I did support tax redevelopment credits. So in Fairview, some of these properties that could be redeveloped with more high-density housing, the builders can now afford to actually invest and build the housing. We have to make more land available, whether it's trying to get federal land, state grants, or releasing some of the municipality-owned lands. Because the reason that we have such an expensive housing market is because we need more. So that's another part. But in order to get these projects online quickly, we have to cut the bureaucratic red tape at the municipality level. A lot of these builders who want to develop, it might take them 8 months just to get their permits. That's ridiculous. We need to make it so we can build housing in a quick fashion and we can get people affordable rent.
Thank you. You know, what we have is not just an issue with affordable housing, it's all housing. We have what is housing gridlock. And the challenge is 30 years ago, a lot of seniors as the population aged to move south. And the winters have become more moderate. They have children now and grandchildren, so more seniors are staying, and not only staying, but staying in their homes, and those homes aren't turning onto the market. You combine that with a growing population and lack of land, and you have, what you're left with is really poor buildings, high rents, and low vacancies. And that's what squeezes affordable housing. And there's no question we need to work towards all housing, including affordable housing, but it is a housing gridlock. And that's one of the things, after meeting with a dozen different minority community leaders, affordable housing is their #1 concern, and it's an economic drain, and it hampers economic development. And the city needs to address it through tax credits, or renovation, or redevelopment. There's a number of different tools.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for your great responses. And now I would like to invite each and every one of you to state your closing remarks. 30 seconds.
Thank you very much for having me this evening. I'll take my 30 seconds to say that I think that the strength of Anchorage comes in the fact that when we're united, there's nothing we can't achieve. And that's the kind of mayor I'd like to be. I'd like to look back on my term and say, I did something to bring the people of this community closer together by giving us a common purpose and restoring the idea that together we're going to achieve something greater than we could achieve by ourselves. If you elect me, I'm going to commit to making sure that when I'm done in office, this Anchorage will be safer, more secure, and stronger. And I look forward to speaking with you individually after this program is over. But thank you very much again for welcoming me here.
Thank you.
anyway, I'd kind of like to echo what Ethan said, but I'd like to bring everybody together. This is one community. It's a diverse community, but we should all have one vision together for Anchorage. And I hope if I'm elected mayor to do that for you. This is my first time running for political office, but I do study all the issues and understand what's going on in Anchorage and talk to the people on the streets and all of them, all the different people out there. And so I know how you guys are feeling. I hear there's all kinds of different issues we can talk to you about tonight, but we really can't cover them all. We don't really get in depth about them. So I'd be willing to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me after the event, if you're interested in housing or police or anything. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me.
I too want to echo those sentiments. You know, it is a great pleasure to be able to sit before you and talk with you and hear what's important to you. As an assembly member, the most important thing to me is to hear from people who want something, need me to do my job and do it in an efficient fashion. You know, and the only way we can get there is if we talk. So to me, I say public safety is my #1 priority, but that comes with dealing with homeless issues and dealing with detox issues. That's important. Affordable housing is important. Education is important. But we cannot do this alone. We have to do it together. And I just thank you again for having me.
I see the sun like blaring in the window right in my eye, and I'm wondering if that's a sign from God. Maybe he's saying I should come back to my church. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to clear something for the record. I love my dentist, okay? Seriously, did not mean to compare him to the community website. Over the last 2 years at the Anchorage Chamber, you know, as the largest business organization, one of my most favorite initiatives has been the diversity outreach, because it's been so cool sitting around the table and really putting truth to a lot of anecdotes. This is a fabulous community. And you know, the last couple of years we've kind of strayed apart, and we need to get back together and make this community stronger and safer together, and our neighborhoods can be stronger, and we really can become a healthier community. Thank you.